Hey, happy Friday. What is up, guys? Figured, since I haven't done one of these in a while, I might as well just bullshit with everybody for a little while. I don't have any ideas lined up for the rest of this week, aside from getting this horror threequel tier list done for you guys for this weekend. And so, rather than just figuring out a video to turn out today, I figured let's just hang out for a while. So right off the top, I got a couple of super chats. I'm gonna get to those first, but hope everybody's having a good day and a good start to your weekend. Definitely make plans to go see The Black Phone if you're interested. Also, go make plans to see Elvis. I'm not going to do a standalone review for Elvis. I've been looking around at everybody else's channels that have demographics that are much more likely to like those movies, and they're not performing well. So I don't think this is a movie that people want to discuss too much online, but it's very good. It's a very good movie. Steven Staniforth. Hey, Cody, I know Netflix is being a fart knocker for lying to you. Well, I don't know if it's Netflix or if it's just the marketing reps that they chose. I don't necessarily want to assign that to Netflix, but regardless, somebody, yes, lying to you, but I'm dying to know your thoughts on Stranger Things Season 4 and any death predictions you have for Volume 2. Also, it baffles me that you don't have 1 million subscribers. Me too. All right, let's see. Overall thoughts so far on Stranger Things Season 4. I need to see the next 2 episodes before I can say anything too definitive, because it leaves off in a spot to where the season's quite literally not done yet. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street influences. I think anybody that sees Season 4 is going to immediately, that follows me, is immediately going to think of me and be like, damn, he's going to love it. I do. I love the Nightmare on Elm Street influences. I loved Robert Englund's short little role. He did great. I think that the villain Vecna is arguably, well, I would say definitively actually, is the best villain that we've had in the show so far. Not going to get into spoilers, but when you eventually find out who Vecna is, I thought that was done extremely well. Aside from, they did it a little bit in Season 3 with some people being down in the mall where everybody else was above ground, but I think that this season has done the best thus far at keeping the groups of kids kind of separate, but still being very compelling and not making you like miss that group dynamic. I felt like Season 2 really dropped the ball with that. They split everybody up and you just wanted them to be back together the whole season. Where this season, I think the groups that they're in are really entertaining. That's about it so far. Like, it's not my favorite season so far, but the next 2 episodes could change that, because they're going to be, it's 4 hours. So it's like 2 hours, 2.5 hour episodes. So 2 big full length movies. Death predictions. I don't really have any death predictions. I'd assume somebody will, but I don't know. I mean, I would say it would be the most tragic for 11 to go down fighting Vecna, but we've already killed her at the end of Season 1, and then she came back, and obviously she's not going to be, so that would be a little repetitive. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't want to make any predictions. I just want to experience it. Brandon, what's up, Cody? Just wanted to say you're one of my favorite YouTubers. Thank you so much. I always respect your opinion, even if I don't always agree. That is the key. That is the key, my friend. Also, looking forward to whenever you review the Wishmaster series. Well, I'm not in any hurry. I'm not in any hurry, so don't hold your breath, but we'll get there eventually. John Sutherland, hey, Cody, any anticipation for Bullet Train in August or horror movie Smile in September? I will say Bullet Train, every year there's at least 2 movies that just feels like I get the trailer shoved down my fucking throat for months. And Bullet Train has been that movie over the past 3 or 4 months, where every single movie I go to, I see that same trailer. The trailer's fun. Brad Pitt's a lot of fun. I like that guy. It seems like it's going to be a really fun, frantic experience. So I'm definitely interested in the movie. It's just one of those trailers where I'm like, fucking God, you've already earned my ticket. Leave me alone. And then they recently released a second trailer that gives a little bit different context to it. So yes, I will be there. I'm really much looking forward to it. I just wish I could stop seeing the trailer. Smile intrigues me, but there's something cheap about it. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's too reminiscent of Truth or Dare. Maybe that's what it is. That movie from Blumhouse from a couple years ago where they would be cursed. So I don't know. The trailer didn't immediately sell me. Of course I'm going to see it. If I didn't run this channel, I probably would wait for it to hit streaming before I ever gave it a chance. But yeah, I don't know. Until that final scene in the trailer where the chick's neck like swings down, like it didn't really do anything for me. I'm like, okay, they smile. I've seen 2 or 3 movies do that, the whole gimmick. Shawnee, thoughts on England coming back as Freddy? If it was for more than one movie after the 2010 remake, I think that's the only way Nightmare comes back. I don't think we need it. I really don't. I know people don't like to hear that. They say, well, Nightmare on Elm Street can't exist without England. Well, then I guess it's just going to die then, because God forbid. I'm not wishing this upon the guy. You guys know that. But of course, I need to say it. Robert Englund's a very, very old man. He's in his, 70s? So he has said for decades now that he's done playing Freddy, that they should get somebody else. He was in full support of Jackie Earle Haley. I still contend that Jackie Earle Haley did a great job with the barely anything that they gave him to work with. And if that movie was better, the conversation would change quite a bit. And I think the conversation will change if they reboot the film and get somebody who is an unknown, get somebody who is an underknown actor that can disappear into that role and actually give him a good fucking movie. If the movie's good, people will quickly be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I can roll with this dude. We don't need to have Robert Englund. I prefer him, but we don't need it. Like, I guarantee that's what's going to happen. Is it going to be difficult? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's much easier to recast Jason or Michael Myers than it is to do Freddy or inevitably Chucky when that happens too. But the whole thing that's been stirred up now where Jason Blum has said that he's trying to get the rights to Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and he's confident that he can convince Robert Englund to come back. I just don't know what will be gained with that. First of all, I don't like the whole... I admire the dude's confidence, but I don't like the whole context of like, I can make him come back. It's like, why do you gotta make him? He said he's done. Just fucking let him be done. He's done his work. He's done his time as Freddy. But let's say, for argument's sake, that they pull up a dump truck full of money to Robert Englund's house, and they're like, come on, man. He's like, all right, fuck it, fine. I'll do one more. So we get one more. And let's even say, for argument's sake, that it's good. We get one more good Nightmare on Elm Street movie with Robert Englund. Now what? You got to reboot it anyway. So I just don't see the point in doing that, aside from just trying to bait people with nostalgia for one more movie, then to inevitably have to reboot it again. So if I was in charge of it, I would be out there making sure that somebody's writing a damn good script first. Get that story hammered down, something good, something unique, something balls out, not just a retread of the first movie. It's got to be crazy. Then I would find somebody similar to how they found Bill Skarsgård to play Pennywise. Somebody that, you know, some people knew back then from a different couple of shows. I think he was in that Netflix show with the werewolves. He's got a little bit of a name out there, but somebody that certainly is not a household name. And a lot of people would never recognize him if you said the name or showed his picture. And he can just become that role. If you cast somebody like Kevin Bacon was a big rumor, like Kevin Bacon, where we all know who Kevin Bacon is, you're just going to see Kevin Bacon. You're not going to see Freddy. You got to see somebody that's just going to fucking disappear into that role. So that's what I think. George Hicks, what's up, Cody? I hope you're having a great Friday. It's not too bad so far. It's not too bad. Hope you are as well. Let me see. What is your favorite look for Jason? Probably part 7. Honestly, I don't like that movie, but I like the skeletal version of Jason that's been deteriorated in that lake, and his mask's a little bit deteriorated. I like that one. I really like the look in the remake as well. I think it's a good mix of the classic Jasons. Yeah. Do you think The Black Phone will be your movie of the year for horror? No, it's not better than X. X is still my number 1 movie for horror. Black Phone is really good. It's really good. But X, I love. I've already seen it twice, and I'm looking forward to watching it again here very soon. Black Phone, it's a very good story, and it has very good characters with very good performances. I didn't think it quite hit the mark as far as scare factor. To me, it's one of those movies where I could almost understand somebody saying it's not quite horror to me, it's more of a thriller. I'd be like, I kind of get it. There's horrific things in the movie, so I'm not a gatekeeper when it comes to those terms. But it's a movie that in a lot of ways exceeded my expectations, but as far as the scare factor and like putting me on the edge of my seat didn't quite get me there. But it's a very, very good story. And the child actors are just awesome. I'm telling you guys, like with those of you who haven't seen it yet, the little sister in that movie is going to be one of your favorite characters of the year. Honestly, she's so good. So yes, it's a close second. It's a close second, but I still love X more. Something about X was just so different, such a fresh approach to kind of a tired genre at this point, just classic slashers. And it just had so much artistic merit to it that I loved. I loved unpacking and discussing it. And yeah, X is still number one for me. Did you watch Snowfall? It's the Black Breaking Bad. I have never even heard of it. The Black Breaking Bad. That's an interesting sales pitch, though. I'm definitely you have my attention. When can we expect a Dead Silence review? Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a good movie that I would like to do a review for, though, because I feel like it's a little underrated. I'm not sure. Those little hidden gem reviews, like I just did the disturbing behavior one, those are ones that I just kind of pop out of nowhere because I just get in the mood to talk about that movie. Those are the ones that I don't really necessarily like to plan out or staple into the calendar. It's just like disturbing behavior. I keep saying two different movies. Disturbing Behavior, I was just going through movies on HBO Max a couple days ago, just kind of bored, and I threw it on. I'm like, I've always liked this. It's a nice little comfort movie. And I got to the end of it, and I'm like, I want to talk about that. So, yeah, I don't know. I will do one eventually, because that is a movie I would like to talk about. You should start a spicy Twitter or an OnlyFans. Hey, people are willing to pay for it. Cody, I've heard rumors that Michael Myers is going to speak and Halloween Ends. What are your thoughts on this? I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. I mean, there's something poetic about a version of that because he has never spoken. They made a big deal about it in Halloween 2018. Just say something. So there is, in a perfect world, there is a version of that happening. Like, I don't know, like fucking Laurie Strode stabs him and he stabs her and he says something to her. Maybe. But Michael Myers speaking is such a taboo thing that was botched in the absolute worst possible way by Rob Zombie in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 that I don't think that they would ever roll the dice on doing that. I don't care if 9 out of 10 writers said this is a really good way to do this. I still think they'd be like, let's just be safe. He's going down silent. So no, I don't believe that at all. And may the force be with them if they try to do that. That's all I can say. Cody, I like your tier list ranking system, but are you going to continue to do your regular reviews and rankings? And are you ever going to review and rank the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy? Yeah, I'm not abandoning regular rankings. I prefer doing regular rankings. I didn't do tier lists for a long time because I don't personally like watching them. This was something that just for a long time people really wanted me to do, and I was like, I don't really want to. It was like trailer reactions. Like I don't really like watching them, so I want to do something I want to do. And so I finally did it with Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was like, this is different. This is interesting. And so when I decided to do this franchise series where I start with the first movie and then move to the second films and the third films, that excited me because I haven't seen anybody else do it. Not saying that there hasn't been. Maybe there is. I just didn't find it. I did a little search, did a little research, make sure I wasn't trying to do an idea that's already been done. But it's something where I'm like, it's not often you see a list of just the second films or just the third films or just the fifth films. And so it's only because I kind of came up with that idea that I've been doing more tier lists here lately. It's something that I'll incorporate here and there to break it up a little bit. Like when Halloween inevitably comes out in October, I'll probably do a tier list and an updated ranking. But no, my regular rankings and reviews aren't going anywhere. I'm not going to become a tier list channel. I can promise you that. It's just something new that a lot of people seem to be liking because they're performing very well. So If I can find a way to enjoy it and everybody enjoys watching it, why not? When am I going to review and rank the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy? I'm not sure. I might actually. I'm really light on content ideas for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to be on vacation. And if I'm remembering correctly, I Know What You Did Last Summer is kind of a 4th of July type horror film. So I actually might try to squeeze out a review series for that here in the next week or so. So thanks for putting that bug in my ear. I might do that. In fact, I'll go ahead and just write that down right here. Just write down, I know. Well, what do you know? So yeah, that might happen here very soon. Lots of hugs from Mexico. Well, bring me some tacos along with them hugs. I'm a taco eating motherfucker. Thank you. What if they reboot Breaking Bad? They won't. They won't. No reason to do that. Not to say that they won't do another show in that universe. I would not be surprised at all if they did that. But no, they're not going to reboot it. Herogasm, good episode, but overhyped. It's very hard not to overhype something like that. That's why all I said in my review is like that it's a pretty extreme episode. It's an orgy for an entire episode, basically. They had to hype it up because it is on paper pretty extreme and pretty out there. But yeah, it's hard to describe something like that without overhyping it, because you start talking about it and then you just build up this big expectation. But yeah, I think it's a wild episode. I really enjoyed that season. Fuck, it skipped again. Hang on, where are we at? Okay. What do you think of the tone of the final 6 episodes of Better Call Saul will be? I'm assuming it's going to be a mile a minute, just like the whole final season of Breaking Bad. The first half of the season was relatively slow, setting up the whole thing with Howard Hamlin. I still enjoyed it, but I would be surprised if it kept that pacing for the final 6 episodes. I think it's going to get balls to the wall. What do you think they should do after Halloween ends? Reimagine Halloween or a sequel to Halloween Resurrection and bring back Josh Hartnett? They're definitely not going to do that, nor should they. It depends on how Halloween ends, because I still don't know, and I still don't have 100% confidence that they're actually going to kill him off. I think that pretty safe to say Laurie Strode will die, but there's even a chance that she won't. Who the fuck knows? But no, there's a chance that they're not even going to kill Michael Myers. There was a clause or some kind of a contractual obligation with Mustafa Akkad decades ago to where when he died, he ordered that they are not allowed to kill off that character. That's why they weren't able to do it with H2O. So I don't know if that still stands or not. I don't know if that's still something that they have to navigate. I think it's going to be bullshit if they both don't die. I think that kind of defeats the entire purpose of this new trilogy. But we'll have to see. So there's a possibility that Halloween Ends is just going to be the end of that storyline, and Michael will go on and they'll carry it on from there somehow. But if they do die and they decide to start the story over again, then yeah, they're just going to reimagine it somewhere. I don't know where or how. I'm not going to put the cart above the horse. But yeah, they're definitely not going to stop making Halloween movies. Top Gun was surprisingly good, a bit predictable at the end, but a fun ride. Not usually my type of movie. Between that and Batman and the Black Phone, I'm sustained for the year. I hope Ends is good, but I have a bad feeling. I'm right there with you. I like the first Top Gun, but it's not like a real big movie for me. I just not the generation that would love that. I think it's fine. So I was not overly excited about this sequel for a long time. There were so many people like, that's my most anticipated of this year, next year, 2 year. And I'm like, I'll see it, of course, but I don't really care. And then slowly you started to hear all this hype, all these early reactions. And I was like, man, sounds like it's pretty good. It wouldn't take a lot for it to be better than the original for me, but it sounds like it's pretty good. And I went and saw it with my dad, and I loved it. I've had an absolute blast with it. I thought that it was far and away a sequel that surpasses the original in just about every way imaginable. Where you say it's a bit predictable, I was actually surprised at how much it subverted my expectations, because I think there's been enough time separated from the movie to be able to say this now. There's a point in the movie where it felt like they were really foreshadowing Maverick is going to go down on Blaze of Glory. And so there was so much foreshadowing and so many details that was lining that up to where I felt like it was predictable. And I'm like, okay, guys, like I'm really having a good time, but you're like showing all of your cards throughout this movie. And then the directions that they decide to go in the third act really surprised me. I was like, oh wow, they were misdirecting me a bit. So yeah, I really dug what they decided to do with setting up some things to feel like it was going to go in this cliche direction and then taking you in some new territory. So I really enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on the Callisto Protocol and the Last of Us remake after the trailers we've gotten for the past weeks? I have not seen the trailer for the Callisto Protocol, but I saw some screenshots and it looks no, that's not the one. No, I'm thinking of Star, whatever the fuck. Starfield or something. It looks a lot like No Man's Sky. The Callisto Protocol I'm not familiar with. I've seen pictures of it. I have not looked at the trailer yet. The Last of Us remake looks like it's going to be incredible. I'm glad that when they said remake, I was nervous. I was like, why are you remaking this? It's a perfect fucking game. It's not even that old. What are you doing? But they're just updating it from the ground up, like much more, not just an HD update. They're actually rebuilding the game with a new gameplay mechanics from Last of Us 2 and redoing the character models to look better and more modern, but it's the same game at its heart. Not to say that there won't be some extra stuff in there, but I'm glad they're not altering the main game. So I'm very excited for that. As much as I should be burnt out on that fucking game by now, as many as many times as I played it and discussed it, but I can't wait for that. Just wanted to say sorry for everything that happened with the Thing anniversary showing. That theater must be a real pain in the ass. Yeah, it was a fucking joke, man. Absolute joke. So for those that don't know, the Thing 40th anniversary was a Fathom event this week. It was what was it, Wednesday night and Sunday night or something like that. So the previous showing of it, they screwed up, played it in the wrong aspect ratio, and the color grade and everything was messed up. It looked like dog shit apparently, and so there was this big fuss online. A Fathom event came out, and they're like, "We're gonna fix it. We're sorry, big technical difficulties." And I bought tickets like the day before because the only theater that was playing it in my local area was a theater that I fucking hate. It's the same theater that back in 2018, me and Holly went on a date night, and I had got early, like a week early tickets to this fan event for Aquaman. And they had two separate theaters that was going to be playing Aquaman. The projector fucked up in one of them. And so their genius idea was to tell everybody in that theater, just go funnel into that other theater and we'll deal with it. And so you had like 200 people trying to find 100 seats. And you walk into the theater and there's people standing in the hallway, eating popcorn, watching the movie. There's people sitting on the stairs, like fire hazard aside, fuck that. And so we walked back out and I'm like, that was really your genius resolution of that, was to take one theater or two theaters and try to cram them into one. You're idiots. And so I had this whole debacle trying to get my money back. Nonetheless, it's a junky ass, ghetto ass, outdated theater that should be demolished. AMC bought it a couple of years ago and has not updated it one stitch. And so I was like, fuck, I don't want to go to this bullshit theater. But nonetheless, I love the Thing. I figured this is the one time I might be able to see this Fathom event. I don't know if they're going to bring it around again for the anniversary. So throw caution to the wind. So I bought my ticket, drove 40 minutes through shit traffic all the way to Savannah, got there. And the theater still looks like junk. It looks like an absolute fucking shithole. You get into the actual theater for the Thing, and it's like 78 degrees in there. And I was shocked at how many people showed up. By the time that everybody started to leave, there was like 50 people in the theater. I've seen less people show up for new films. But nonetheless, I get there at 6:30 because they don't have assigned seats at this theater because they're fucking archaic. And so I take my seat. And so I wait for half an hour. Then 7 o'clock comes and the screen still hasn't changed. 7:15 comes, screen still hasn't changed. 7:30 comes and this guy gets up and goes outside, talks to somebody, comes back in, and he's like, "Hey, everybody, I just went and talked to them, and they said they're having issues with the movie, and don't be surprised if it never plays because I came out here 2 weeks ago for The Godfather, and they did the same exact thing. So I'm giving them another 15 minutes, and I hope everybody joins me in getting a refund." And so I'm like, fucking great. So I sit there for about another half an hour. I give them till about 8 o'clock. That's about as far as my patience would go. And then eventually one of the managers come in that's wearing a random black hoodie, socks, and slides. I'm like, is this really your uniform, bro? But nonetheless, he comes in. Everybody, unfortunately, the movie's not going to play. If you want to stick around for our 9 o'clock showing, we should be able to get that one going. And I just immediately get up and walk out. So yeah, didn't get to see it. I'm still haven't gotten my money back because I paid through Fandango, and they only give you your money back easily if it's before the movie plays. So still fighting that one. Hey, Cody, did Vince Neil sing in Yiddish, or could you understand what he was saying? LOL, I'm a big Def Leppard fan, but I'm skeptic on going. He was a little bit better than I thought, but he still wasn't very good. But the live atmosphere and the energy and the loudness of everything that's going on really does make it a better experience than the cell phone videos will have you believe. So yeah, he definitely wasn't good. The songs that required him to talk fast, like Saints of Los Angeles, was a really bad one for him. Those are the ones that he really sucked at. Was it like whenever he has to talk fast? The ones that are a little slower, he got a little better with. But like I said, I walked in expecting that, and I had a really good time despite that, because you can't really recreate the experience of when you're actually there and you feel the fucking bass and the guitar in your face and everybody's chanting and everything. Like you can't recreate that experience by just holding your cell phone. Look how shitty he sounds on these little speakers. So I think a lot of people are being unfair online with how bad that he is to them. The other bands did much better. Motley Crue was the only band that I felt like their sound wasn't completely together. Everybody else was very impressive, but it was still a good time. So I would say, don't be so skeptical. I think you'll enjoy it. Thoughts on the Kenobi finale? Love the channel. There was some great moments. My overall thoughts on the show really is that there were some great moments, but narrative-wise, I just don't feel like the show needed to exist. I don't feel like they merited their own existence. All that I wanted was a compelling story that bridges episode 3 to episode 4, what happened in that time with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And essentially, this was just somebody saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader had like a rematch? Let's do that. And then they just formulated 6 episodes around that. And so the actual final episode I liked. I think that the actual fight itself was a really good, exciting fight. The moment where his Vader helmet is split open and you can see Hayden Christensen's like burned face underneath it, and he kind of doesn't really do it to absolve Kenobi, more just to throw it in his face. He's like, I'm not your failure. You didn't kill Anakin. I did. Like, that was a good line. That stuff just in isolation is cool. But they also had to really fuck with canon to make that work. And it doesn't completely make sense to me by the end of it, because it just doesn't line up quite well with the events that are canon in the 4th movie, or in A New Hope. And so you have this 6-episode series that, was it Reva, has nothing to do with her ethnicity or the fact that she's a woman. Say that right off the bat. Her character's storyline was not written very well. There was something there. There was something there about somebody that holds the Jedi and the Empire responsible and has a grudge against both of them because of Order 66. There's something there, but they failed to make that compelling. And so all the way through the final episode, every time that there's a fight with, they're fighting with Vader and Kenobi, and they keep cutting back to Reva, I'm like, I don't fucking care. Stop cutting back to her. And her chasing down Luke Skywalker, like, all that was just so stupid. So I think that they did her a giant disservice in the writing room. They set her up for failure. I didn't love the focus on protecting Leia because it's too reminiscent of The Mandalorian. I just feel like if you were going to tell a story about Obi-Wan Kenobi, they should have focused more on Obi-Wan Kenobi. This was a movie that, or a show that he felt like a guest star in his own story a lot of the ways. And so while there was some good moments, there was some good stuff in the first episode. Ewan McGregor is awesome in the role. There was some good stuff in the 3rd episode. There was really good stuff in the last 2 episodes. They were just cool moments that I could have lived without. There's nothing narrative that they gave me that made that gap in storyline between 3 and 4 matter or more compelling than what I could have imagined myself. And you get to the end, and obviously he can't kill Vader because then you'd have a fucking time paradox, but it doesn't make any sense why he lets Vader go. My friend is truly dead. See you later, Darth. And it's like, dude, You know how many deaths you are responsible for? So yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of things in there. It's like, you guys you created a lot of questions. You didn't answer very much. Don't you dare mention me alongside that fool. But thank you. Thank you. Desi, I actually put off by Jason Blum's arrogance. That alone would be reason for Robert Englund to say no. Yeah, it's and again, I try not to assign tone to text because I'm just reading what he said. If I see him say it, maybe it comes across a little better. But to me, it kind of felt arrogant. And I admire the dude's confidence. He's got a reason to be confident. He's created a fucking behemoth in Blumhouse. He has changed the way that they make movies for better or worse. But yeah, the way that he wrote it, where he's like, I can convince him to come back. I can convince him. It's like, you act like he doesn't have a choice. That's kind of the tone that I didn't like about it. Like, if anybody can do it, it's me. Okay, there might be some validity to that. But the man has said repeatedly he has no interest in coming back. It's time for somebody else. He hasn't said nobody has paid me enough. He just said, I'm done. I've done my time. I want to relax. I don't want to do this anymore. And the fact that people are still, fans and producers are still like, we'll make him come back. Fuck off. He has given enough. All right. You could be in a horror movie. Which one? None of them. I don't want to die. I don't want to be chased by a dude in a mask. None of them. How would you feel about a Sam Raimi Nightmare movie? By the way, Trick or Treat 86 is one of my favorites. Now, keep up the great work. Hell yeah. Everybody check out Trick or Treat from 86. It's awesome. How would you feel about a Sam Raimi Nightmare movie? I don't think that tone would match very well. It would be too goofy. It would be somewhere in the tone of like 4 and 5. Sam Raimi's awesome. And would I be just eternally curious of what that would look like? Yes, but I don't think he'd be a very good fit for that. That I don't want Nightmare to have a bunch of camp in it. You can have a little bit. You can have fun with it. You can have a couple of one-liners that are still dark, but they need a serious horror film. If you're the WB, how do you proceed with the Flash movie and Ezra Miller? He has to go. It's easy for me to say because that's not my money, but I think at this point it's obvious that they can't release the film. They can't because every 3 days there's some wild ass news story about that fucking person. But to me at this point, the fact that they have so much riding on this movie, the future of the Flash franchise, the future of Michael Keaton's Batman coming into this universe, this female the Supergirl, not I was gonna say female Superman, that would have made sense. Supergirl is launching off of this. They have so many properties that are going to springboard off of this one movie that I think at this point it's worth just taking it in the ass and saying, you know what, fuck it, we got to put another 100 million into this. We got to reshoot every single scene that Ezra Miller is on screen. It would be unprecedented. It would be something to where it just seems like DC is cursed at this point. But just saying fuck it, release it in theaters, and hopefully we make $60 million, I think would be a mistake. Just throwing it on HBO Max to try to hide it, I think would be a mistake. So they have so much invested in this, and so many people have invested in this that Ezra Miller has unfortunately wiped his ass with it. That to me would be the only thing that would make sense is dump another 100 million into it. You're not going to make a profit on this movie. Dump another 100 million into it and save all the projects that you have that are intended to springboard off of this. But I have no idea what they're going to do because not only is it an unprecedented situation with no good answer, but you also have a new man in charge that is going to be making this decision that was not in charge while they were doing all these things, setting up all these things that are going to springboard off of this movie. So he might very well say, fuck it, all that shit's canceled. Throw it on HBO Max. Thank you, Ezra. You fucked us. They'll take him to court for some kind of a contract dispute because he destroyed the movie, and the Flash will be another amazing footnote in history with the DCEU. But yeah, that's what I would do. But it's very easy for me to say that with no experience and no skin in the game. What has been your favorite film score soundtrack of the year so far? Mine is Sonic 2 so far, which I still find quite surprising. That was the best soundtrack for sure. As far as film score, probably Top Guns was really good. The Batman's was really good. Probably the Batman. But yes, a soundtrack, Sonic 2 takes the cake. That was a damn good soundtrack. Where was I at? Crap. Okay, here we go. The Black Phone is far from an original movie. It's just an expansion of a book. I mean, it's still dope, and I love the acting and Tom Savini's mask he made for the grabber. I don't remember saying it was a completely original movie. I just said it's a very good story. But even if it's not, there's very few things that are completely original. I mean, it's pretty original. I haven't seen anything that's a lot like The Black Phone. Just because it's an expansion of a short story, I don't see what that matters. Sean Sheridan, I don't want Robert back, but if they mapped out, say, 3 movies like Halloween with a good story, it might work. Thoughts on Public Enemies 2009? Not a fan of that movie, but 3 movies, I mean, he's going to turn that into a fucking model at this point because they did it with Halloween because Halloween was so successful. He's doing it with The Exorcist, and then you want him to turn around and do it with Nightmare. And so every franchise that he gets is going to be like, we're doing a new trilogy. And I don't know, I would rather them start over. I would rather them do a clean break and just start over and try to tell a really great story with the modern technology that they have available to do these awesome nightmare and death scenes. I think that they would have to go around their ass to get to their elbow to try to make Robert Englund's Freddy into a trilogy. And what? Only the first film exists? Only the first 3 films exist? Like, what are you going to do? That at this point, it's not just going to feel like we've done this before, guys. We've deleted all the sequels and started the original with how many franchises at this point? So I don't know. I just want a clean break. I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street has to follow in the footsteps of Halloween. Daniel Skinner, with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio coming to Netflix this December and being a stop motion horror, is there a chance to rank del Toro's filmography? Possibly. Is Pinocchio, is that the one with Tom Hanks, or am I thinking of something else? I don't think, that doesn't sound like a stop motion horror with Tom Hanks. Is there 2 Pinocchios coming out? That's kind of news to me. Possibly. What are your thoughts on Joker 2 being a musical and Lady Gaga being in it? That's a weird movie because financially it makes absolute sense to do a sequel. Narrative-wise, it doesn't at all. So Lady Gaga being cast possibly as Harley Quinn, I think is a really cool idea. And I think immediately when you cast her, you have something that's going to be very different than Margot Robbie, which is imperative. Joker 2 being a musical, though, I'm not a fan of that. There's something cool about the idea of maybe some sequences that are musical, like them just being fucked up in the head and they're singing with this dual psychosis thing. I could get that, but I don't want the whole movie to be a musical just because I don't like musicals. So that would diminish my interest in the movie significantly. Do you think Dexter deserves another chance? Yeah, he deserved another chance and they screwed it up a second time. So if they announced that they were coming back to try to do it a third time, I would roll my eyes. That's like a fool me twice kind of situation. So Dexter deserves a great ending. I know there's some people out there that like the ending, but Dexter deserves a great ending. It's a shame that show, which has some of the best story and characters in any show that I've ever seen, has a legacy for a lot of people that it fucked up the ending completely twice. So yeah, Dexter deserves a good ending, but I don't think he's ever going to get one. At least one that satisfies me. Joshua Nelson, since they weren't on your recent tier list, how would you rate the Sleepaway Camp, Hatchet, and Pumpkinhead films? That's a good point. Like I was putting those together, and that I did miss Hatchet. Hatchet would have been a good one to put on there. Sleepaway Camp, I didn't, just because I didn't want to watch the 4th and the 5th movie. Sleepaway Camp, I think, is... So you want me to use my tier list rankings? Sleepaway Camp would be Bloody Good Time. Pumpkinhead would be Bloody Good Time for the first one. I'm not really a fan of 2 and 3 of Sleepaway Camp, so that would be... The second one would be Kills 2 Hours. The third one would be Painful. Hatchet, the first film would be Kills 2 Hours, which is the only one that I like. The rest of them would either be... would pretty much all be Painful, except for maybe the last one that they did, which I thought was pretty atrocious. And I've never seen the Pumpkinhead sequel, so I can't comment on those. But I should have included Hatchet because I've seen all those movies. Just totally slipped my mind. You got more coming down the pipe there, Jada. We got the threequel one will be this weekend, and then of course we got 4, 5, 6, 7, however many of those do before I start to run out of movies. Terminator franchise versus Alien franchise. I like the Terminator franchise more as a whole. I can tell you that, because Alien, I pretty much only love the first 2 films. I have a lot of fun with the fourth one, but the fourth one, Resurrection's not something I would call a good movie. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. I despise the third film. I'm not a big fan of Prometheus or Alien Covenant. Those get as much right as they get wrong, in my opinion. And so most of that franchise I'm not a fan of. Whereas Terminator, I get a little bit more guilty pleasure out of those movies, even the ones that are bad. So the first 2 films are in my favorites of all time. The third one, despite this being a movie that Brian Lomax probably wouldn't wipe his ass with, I can have fun with elements of the third one. It's certainly disastrous compared to the first 2 films, but maybe it's because I saw it as a kid. I can have a decent time with that one. I really like Salvation. I think that Genesis is goofy, but it has some good elements to it, and I loved Dark Fate. So overall, I will take the Terminator franchise. Let's see here. What tattoos do you have? I have, this one was my first tattoo, and then I have this one and the initials of my grandma above it. That was something I got whenever she died, the blackbird and her initials. And that is it so far. I need to get another one, but I just haven't really had an idea that I've loved. Let's see here. Hey, Cody, hope things are well. Are you excited for the new Scream Factory Child's Play 4Ks? I mean, I ordered them. I pre-ordered them. I'm not really excited. I get more excited from releases that I don't already own. There's so many movies that they haven't made Blu-rays yet that I wish that they would focus on those instead of the 6th or 7th version of the Child's Play movies. But yeah, I really do like the cover art for them. So looking forward to finally getting those in the mail at some point. Did you watch Stranger Things season 4? Thoughts? I did. Again, I love your screen name. That's still my favorite screen name ever. But yeah, I talked about it earlier here, so I don't want to repeat my thoughts. But when that was the first question I answered, I believe. So I went into some decent thoughts. But I do like season 4 quite a bit. Best and worst movie of this year so far. Best is The Batman. Worst is probably Morbius for me. I haven't seen something that's just like, this insults me down to my core, but Morbius is a movie that I dislike the more that I talk about it, the more that I think about it. So that is, its runner-up is Jurassic World Dominion, but Dominion, I feel like, at least tries to do things where Morbius is just like, why did you even waste my time with this? Cody at the theater now watching The Black Phone, and Elvis is going to do a double feature. Do you have any interest in Elvis? I saw Elvis yesterday with my son, so I really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it. Elvis Presley is somebody that I've heard his music throughout my life. My dad's a big Elvis fan, so there's a lot of his songs that I do enjoy, but he's a pretty fascinating guy. So I don't know a lot about his story. At least I didn't before I went to see the movie, assuming that it was all factual. You know, sometimes they can play with that a little bit with the biopics. So I was really interested in just his story. Most times when I see biopics, I already know a lot of the story, and so it's more so just seeing it come to life and not really being informed. But there's a lot of things in this movie, especially dealing with his relationship with Tom Hanks's character, Colonel Tom Parker, his manager, that I did not know. That was pretty fascinating. That, you know, Elvis, the biggest rock star in the world at that point, was essentially like held hostage and forced to perform like a slave driver. So it was a very interesting story. I think that you're going to see both. I keep forgetting the kid's name. The guy that plays Elvis. Shit, I can't think of his name. It just escaped me. The kid that plays Elvis does phenomenal. Elvis is one of those guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger, to where you either get his dialect and his accent and everything and his mannerisms perfect, or you're doing a parody. You're doing a comedic version of that. And he nails it. He does perfect. So he is going to be easily a lock for Best Actor nominee. And at this point, if the Oscars were tomorrow, I would say he's going to get it no matter what. He's going to get that win easily. But we still got half a year of movies. Tom Hanks also does phenomenal, which is, not to be expected at this point. It's Tom Hanks. So I would be shocked if he does not get a Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor nomination. I think that the energy and the style and the editing of the movie is very, very good, especially in the first half. It's very frantic and energetic and very imaginative with the way that they bring the story together visually. I do think the movie's a little too long, though. It's 2.5 hours, and not only stylistically, but also narrative-wise, it starts to burn you out a little bit after 2 hours because it's kind of the same thing over and over again as far as Tom Parker just fucking him over and making him stay and do things that he doesn't want to do. So I think they could have trimmed at least 20 minutes out of the movie, and it would have become a movie that I probably would rewatch. But as of right now, it's a movie that I think was a really good movie that I would highly recommend, especially to Elvis fans. But I don't know if I would ever watch it again. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on Elvis. So enjoy. That's going to be an interesting double feature. Been a huge fan for a while. I'm curious on your thoughts of Kenobi, if you've seen it, and also thoughts on the original Grudge movie. This is the movie that stuck with me as a kid. Well, I just gave my thoughts on Kenobi, so I would, again, kind of take the needle back about 5 minutes, and you'll get all of those answers. As far as the original Grudge, I've only seen it in pieces, but I don't really care for those movies that much. It wasn't a movie that really appealed to me. The Americanized Japanese horror films that came out in that time with The Ring and The Grudge, they just didn't scare me, didn't do a whole lot for me. I've seen pieces of the sequel. That didn't do a whole lot for me. I did not like the remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it, that came out a couple years ago at all. So, yeah, I'm not really a fan of The Grudge. Oh, shit. Hang on, it jumped again. Trying my best to catch up on these guys. Sorry if I'm behind. I know some of these are from 30 minutes ago. Is there a movie you refuse to see out of principle for whatever reason? Love your stuff. Thank you. There's plenty. All like the video nasty movies. I don't care to ever watch those. Like Serbian Film, Human Centipede, Cannibal Holocaust, Solo, like all of those movies where they exist in the pop culture just because of how horrendously disgusting that they are. I don't need to see those. I know enough about Serbian Film. I know there's people that say there's more artistic merit to it than you would expect. That's fine. I can take your word for it. I don't need to see that. Human Centipede, don't need to see any of those. I just, when I watch movies, I watch it for the story to get something out of it. And if it's a movie that's pretty much, I'm just going to walk away going, yep, that was disgusting and fucked up. Thank you for that image. That I can live without that. So, yeah. Sean, thank you. Love the channel. Don't always agree, but still much love. You've had some Star Wars content in the past. Thoughts on Kenobi? Oh, man. You guys are all sending me super chats for the same answer. Again, I gave all my thoughts on Kenobi just about 5 minutes ago, so I'm sure you heard it since this is from 20 minutes ago. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts. Pretty much all of these Disney Plus shows, my overall issue with all of them, with the exception of maybe WandaVision and Mandalorian. I still wasn't a big fan of WandaVision, but this specific issue doesn't really apply to those. They all feel like this weird compromise between a movie and an actual TV series. Like you have characters or stories that for whatever reason, they don't want to dump the resources of marketing or something, or don't want to pack out their film release so much. So they don't want to release it out in theaters. So they compromise and do this Disney Plus mini series of like 6 episodes, 30, 40-minute episodes. And every single one that I have watched since they have done that 6-episode model, I've come away with one of two thoughts. I either watch it and I go, that should have been tightened up and just been a movie like Kenobi, or they should have fleshed that out and paced that out more and done a full-on series like Moon Knight. So I don't know. This 6-episode, 30, 40-minute episode model just doesn't work for me. It feels like a junk drawer. That's what I keep calling it now. Is like, we don't want to make a movie out of that. Just throw it on Disney Plus. Do something with it. From worst to least worst. Okay. Worst to least worst. Wrong Turn 5, Black Christmas remake, Halloween 5, Bye Bye Man 31. They all fucking suck. I don't know. Didn't I give a fuck this movie to all of those? I think I did. Wrong Turn 5 is probably the Wrong Turn 5 is probably the worst of all of them. A step above that is the Black Christmas remake. A step above that is Bye Bye Man. A step above that is 31, and a step above that is Halloween 5. But they all are horrendous. Just saying, hey, don't stop being awesome. I don't plan to anytime soon. Thank you. What's your thoughts on Stranger Things season 4? Very first question that I answered, I talked for about 3 or 4 minutes on it. I enjoy it so far. I'm sorry you guys are all asking me the same question. I hope you don't feel like you're getting ripped off, but it wouldn't make any sense for me to reiterate my thoughts. Which franchise would you rather be in control of, Halloween or Friday the 13th? Friday the 13th. Actually, you know what? The petty bitch inside of me would want to take Halloween so that I could fuck with all the people that fuck with me for so long. I'd be like, oh, look who's in charge, bitch. And then just do everything to make them furious. But no, honestly, creatively, I would rather do Friday the 13th. I think there's more room to do something new and different with that. Whereas Halloween, they're doing their thing with that right now. Friday the 13th, I would have a lot of ideas on where to take that to be different. I don't know if it would succeed or not, because I have a very casual love for Friday the 13th. So the diehards might not line up with my thinking, but I would rather take a chance and do something new with that. First 3 episodes for season 6 of Better Call Saul are good. I can't believe they killed ? That was such a badass scene. Yeah, that was the best episode of that season so far. It was went out like a man. Went out like a fucking man. Hey, Cody, thoughts on Jean-Claude Van Damme? I understand you're not versed in martial arts flicks. Yeah, Jean-Claude and Steven Seagal were like 2 90s, 80s action heroes that I never really latched onto that much. I love Hard Target and Time Cop, and that's pretty much the only Jean-Claude movies that I ever really got into. I didn't watch any of the ones that are probably the more well-known ones like Bloodsport and all of that. I just never seen them. Don't really feel like going back and watching them now because they're probably going to be really corny. But yeah, he was always, to me, it was always Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Those were always, and Bruce Willis were always the action heroes that I latched into. So Jean-Claude and Steven Seagal were the ones where I was like, don't care. I'm unsubscribing from you. Okay. Thanks for telling me for $2. I saw John Carpenter's The Thing back in January of 2022 at an IMAX Regal Theater, and hearing about your experience this past week is upsetting. Yeah, it sucks. Absolutely sucks. I must be really behind. Hey, it's my daddy. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen it on the big screen. That being said, Bloodsport, guilty pleasures like I did see Street Fighter. Don't have any memories with it, but I did see that. Sudden Death and Time Cop are certified classics of the 80s and 90s. Okay. Take your word for it. What ate you? What are your thoughts on the 1979 Salem's Lot? Also, will you be watching James Wan's remake, which is set to be released this year? Well, it's not James Wan's remake. He's definitely not directing it. He might be producing it, but nonetheless, yes, I'll be watching it. The original, I've only seen once. Believe it or not, I watched it during the night that all the votes were coming in between Trump and Hillary. So while everybody else was on Twitter and everything freaking the fuck out, I was just like, old vampire movie. And so there were some cool elements to it, but it's long as fuck. So yeah, I didn't quite get into it. Wasn't quite for me. Oh, Jesus. Let's see. Thoughts on the upcoming Resident Evil series? Well, I've actually seen 2 episodes of this series thus far. I was sent the screener for the first 4 episodes, and I'm told that I'll get the rest closer to release date. But I'm under embargo. I cannot share specific thoughts. All that I will say is that I'm going to be very fascinated to see where people land on it, because it's different. It's very different. Let's see here. Hey, Brian. Is Brian in here somewhere? You slippery bitch. Where you at? Vince Neil's like David Lee Roth. He was never really good live, just as worse with age. Absolutely a fact. But it is fair to say, which is why I say you can't really recreate the live experience. There he is, Brian. What's up? You can't recreate the live experience with these cell phone videos. There are certain performers that are not necessarily up to par vocal quality, but they can still put on a really good show. I would not quite say that about Vince Neil, because he definitely felt like he was a bit tired going through the motions, but I still really enjoyed the show overall. But a good example of this is Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie would probably be the first person to tell you that he is not the best vocalist in the world, but he puts on a fucking great show. A really good show that's fun, it's energetic, it's memorable. And so even though he would not win American Idol, I don't give a fuck, because he still puts on a hell of a show. So there's a balance with that with rock. Hell, James Hetfield from Metallica. That guy's not a phenomenal singer whatsoever. And he's had eras where he sounds terrible live, but it's fucking Metallica. So it's just, there's a bit of a balance there. Yes, he's like David Lee Roth. People are like, he's terrible. It's like, he was never fucking good. Your thoughts on John I need to drink of water. I'm starting to get tongue-tied. Your thoughts on John Campea. John Campea saying that a new Nightmare on Elm Street is played out. I respect his point of view. John is not a big classic slasher fan. So that movie would not necessarily be made for him. He has said famously before that he does not even like the original Halloween. So he is somebody that, from what I gather from the things that he has said in the past, the 80s slasher franchises, he could pretty much take or leave. And so I understand from that perspective why he would say there's no point in doing another one, because they've done the same thing 7-8 times. Like, yeah, I get that. And that's true of most slasher franchises. That's why some people like Child's Play 3 critics always kill me, where they're like, it's the same thing as the first two. Motherfucker, how many Halloween movies are the same shit as the first one? But he is not the intended audience for that movie. He's not the one that they would be selling that to. I think that from his perspective, it makes sense why he would say that. But I think that he would be proven wrong if they did a really good one. And he might not even like it. You know, it could be a really good one that the fans love, and he'll be like, it's still the same thing. And he's not wrong for saying that. But played out to me means like there's just nothing left in the tank. You can't do anything new or unique with this concept whatsoever. And I would not say that about Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street, you have carte blanche to do whatever the fuck you want, more so than any of the other slasher franchises, with the dream sequences and the way that you visualize it. And we have yet to really see a good modern version of that, because the 2010 remake just wanted to recreate what we saw in 84 in a really shitty CGI way. So yeah, totally respect him saying that. And he's not completely wrong for saying it, but if they do a really good one, I think that there's a chance that he would change his tune on to that. But like I said, regardless, that he's not the intended audience for that film, because he's not really, doesn't seem to be a big slasher guy. That'd be like asking me, like, hey, should they do another West Side Story? And I'd be like, fuck no. But I'm not going to go anyway. So why are you asking me? What do you think of the fact James Mangold is directing Indiana Jones 5? That is the only reason that I have faith in Indiana Jones 5. James Mangold is the shit. And Indiana Jones is one of those franchises that's one of those classic, like, best of all time franchises that I have always just liked. I grew up loving them as a kid, and they're not movies that I rewatch very often. So I'm not somebody that is chomping at the bit for another Indiana Jones. I wasn't even chomping at the bit for the fourth one. Fourth one was not very good, but James Mangold directing the fifth one is the only reason why I'm not looking at it and completely rolling my eyes, because Harrison Ford is going to be 80 or something like that. And it's just like, what left do you have to do with that character? So yeah. Stranger Things 4 thoughts. Season ranking, I can't say until I see the last 2 episodes. That would be pointless to do. But I answered, that was the very first question that I answered on this Q&A. I talked about it for about 3 or 4 minutes. So just dial it back and you'll get all my thoughts. But overall, I do really enjoy season 4 so far. Dylan O'Brien is the Flash. I'm 100%. behind that. I love that guy. I can't wait for him to really, really bust out into Hollywood with a big role. Let's see here. Did I skip any? Muhammad, hey Cody, what about Scorsese's Casino? Aren't you keen on? What about it? Aren't you keen on? Because I've heard you say that you aren't a big fan of it. I do prefer Goodfellas, my number one favorite, greatest film of all time. But I love Casino. I'd say to rewatch it. I do need to rewatch it. I've only seen it once. I can't specifically tell you because it's been a while since I've watched it. And to be fair, Goodfellas is a movie that is in my top 5 of all time. And that was a movie that I didn't even really love the first time that I watched it, mostly because of my age when I watched it. But that's a movie that every time I rewatched it, I loved it more. So that might be the case for Casino. But Casino, to me, it just didn't draw me in as much with the characters or the story. You know, Goodfellas is about mob life and the excesses of it and the freedom of it and the risks that come along with it. Casino, to me, was a less interesting story about a casino owner that has mob ties. And so I don't know. I can't really answer that accurately without talking out my ass. Austin Butler, thank you. minutes have gone by since I've talked about it, but that's the actor's name. Let's see here. Do you consider YouTube full-time as long-term, or are you open to accepting a new real-life job that's much more appreciative of you? It's going to be long-term for as long as I can sustain it. I much prefer working for myself and doing my own scheduling and being the author of my success or my demise. But yeah, at some point, if it starts to not be enough money or it doesn't take off or YouTube shuts down or whatever the fuck, then yeah, I'll go back and get a new job. It's not something that I would freak out or cry about. It's a very plain reality. But no, I'm going to stick with this as long as I can. James Wan could make a good Nightmare on Elm Street film. It would be interesting for sure. He's not somebody that I would throw it to. I would want to see somebody with a very unique style take it over, where I feel like James Wan has a very specific style that I would already be able to just like picture the whole movie. But I would not be upset if he took over. Recently watched A Quiet Place, great movie, underwhelming antagonist. The crux of the film rests on the strong family dynamic. I disagree. I think that the alien designs are very good. But to each their own. Let's see here. God damn it. It always jumps. I apologize if I missed anybody's. I don't think I have, but sometimes when I'm scrolling on StreamYard, it flashes for a second and takes me down to the bottom, and I got to go all the way back up where I was. Just wanted to say that your videos are top tier. Keep up the good work. Any updates on a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie? Well, thank you very much. And no new updates aside from not too long ago, a year or so ago, the Wes Craven estate got the rights back to them. Blumhouse is currently trying to get the rights, and he's confident that he can get Robert Englund back. That is the only news that we have right now. Which is greater to you, The Godfather 1 or 2, and why? Those are both movies that kind of go along with what I said about Elvis, to where I really enjoyed them and thought they were very good, but I would probably never watch them again. I liked 2 more than 1 when I first saw them, but I have not seen them since I was a teenager. They are very good movies that are very long and deliberately paced, and when I watch a mob movie, I tend to gravitate towards something like Goodfellas. But I did prefer 2. How's the video gaming? What you've been playing? I really haven't been playing much, man. Like it's kind of the shitty part about the fact that I made a gaming channel. It still makes sense to do that, but I go into these phases to where I'll be balls to the wall playing video games every single day for a few months, and then I'll go like 3 or 4 months and won't play them at all. It's just like I get in love with them and then I fall out of love with them. And sometimes that has to do with new releases. If there's nothing new that really interests me, because I'm not somebody that goes back and plays older games very often, not the way that I watch older movies. So lately, I really have not had much interest in playing games. I tried to play Evil Dead, was not a fan of it, quickly fell out of interest with that. I've tried to play The Quarry, Not impressed so far. I'm 2 chapters in. I think it's an incredibly boring game. So that's unfair for me to say because I haven't played the rest of it. It might ramp up soon. So I plan on trucking along with it at some point. But even that we had the new PlayStation Plus, and I logged in for an hour or so to kind of play around with that and play a couple of old games, and just kind of turned it off and got bored. Sonic Origins, I got that so that I can play it with my daughter. She's a big Sonic fan. I played one level of Sonic 3 and got bored and turned it off. So I'm weird with video games. I'm like the biggest fan you've ever met, and I'll play hours, or it's like I don't even game at all. So since I got burnt out on Elden Ring, I haven't really had the interest in playing games in a while. So would you consider Better Call Saul to be on the same level as Breaking Bad? No. It's a very good show. It's a very good show. And it's on the level of quality that I would expect from something that is in the Breaking Bad universe. It doesn't like taint the name or anything like that, but Breaking Bad is on a whole other level. Part of it's just the inherent nature of the story. You have sleazy lawyer that gets involved with the cartel and has drama with his brother. Dying science teacher decides to become a drug kingpin. That story just in and of itself is always going to be more interesting, at least to me, than this story is, even at its best. And so we still got 6 episodes left. But as much as I really do love Better Call Saul, it would still fight to be in my top 10 shows of all time, where Breaking Bad is still easy number 1, and nothing's coming close to it. So no, that I don't have that expectation for it either. I think that would be an unfair expectation for anybody to have. Is it's got to be better or as good as Breaking Bad. It's awesome. It's very good, but it's not on that level. My reaction to Elvis was the same as yours. Would you consider Austin Butler as the front runner right now for Best Actor? Absolutely. That's what I was saying. If we had the Oscars tomorrow, I think he would win. Can't say that until we see the next 6 months of movies, but he became Elvis. And like I said, that is extremely difficult to do. Elvis, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, there is a line about that big between nailing an impersonation or impression and being comedic with it. And Elvis, the way he talks, and stuff like that, it's very easy to come across like it's a parody. And he nailed the different eras of Elvis, which there's very distinct eras of Elvis. The way that he moved, I mean, he just became Elvis. I would say even more so than the way that Rami Malek became Freddie Mercury. I think that Austin Butler was even more impressive with what he did, and Rami ran away with that Oscar. What would you think of the idea of Saw being remade in the same way as Friday the 13th? By that, I mean plot elements from the other films and focus more on story, less on gore and traps. They've tried to reboot Saw twice at this point. There's just not a lot there. It was a cool concept for one movie that was way more successful than they expected it to be. So it turned into this huge franchise that very, very quickly in the franchise dropped in quality. They tried to reboot it with very good directors in Jigsaw. Didn't have very good results. And then they tried to take a very unique modern spin to the actual story and focus more on the story than the gore and the traps with Spiral, which I liked, but still would not say that that was a very successful reboot. So I think when you talk about played out, like we were talking about earlier with John Campea, I would say that Saw is absolutely played out. I consider myself to be a creative person that comes up with good ideas, and I enjoy writing in my own time here and there. I would not want the job of rebooting Saw, because I would be like, what the fuck is there left to do with this that you haven't already tried? So yeah, I think Saw needs to just, if they're not going to do a direct sequel to Spiral, which I don't think they're going to, just let it die. Let it at least go to sleep for a while. Can you touch my camera through the fence? What? The fuck does that mean? What's your favorite show movie this year so far? Movies, Batman. Shows, Better Call Saul. Fucker. Jumped again. Have you seen Fresh? I have not. I don't have Hulu. I said Hulu on a video, and I had like 18 people. Did you say Hulu? I'm like, what the fuck does it matter? You know what I'm saying? Hulu, fucking that thing. I don't have Hulu. There's some things on Hulu that I'd be interested in, so maybe I'll join it at some point, but that is the one major streaming service that I'm never a subscriber to. I subscribed to it back when Chucky came out because that was the only thing that would let me watch Sci-Fi Channel live, but I canceled it immediately after that because it was like $70 a month for that. But yeah, have not seen it. I've heard things about it though. When are you going to do a Rob Zombie ranking? As soon as Monsters comes out, I will be doing that. I still have to review the Firefly trilogy, so that'll be a cool little mini review series. I've reviewed all of his other films. I might even revisit a few of them, because I would like to revisit 31. Not that I think that I'm going to be any different as far as my thoughts on the movie, but I talked about this on a previous Q&A. I don't remember if it was Patreon or if it was for everybody, but I have some of my older reviews that I'm not very happy with because my professionalism was not on display during them. I kind of started off, I was young and figured out very quickly that I was entertaining when I was in rant mode. And so I just kind of stuck to that for a while. So reviews like 31, where I'm just eviscerating Rob Zombie and his wife and anybody that worked on the movie just for comedic effect, I'm not very happy with that. I would be embarrassed if I ever met Rob Zombie, which is somebody that I am a huge fan of. And he's like, oh, you're that guy. And I'd be like, oh, fair. Yeah, that was me. So there's some of those older reviews that I would like to go back over and do, whether or not I like the movie more or not. And I'm not confident that I would. I still don't think the movie's very good. I would like to do it in a way that's not so disrespectful. So yeah, I will do a Rob Zombie, if nothing else, a Firefly review series whenever the Monsters is coming out, and I'm very excited for the Monsters. And then I'll do a whole Rob Zombie ranking. Let's see here. Catching up. I did see Lightyear. It was good. Middle of the road Pixar, in my opinion. It might be my least favorite of the Toy Story movies, but then again, I have very passionate feelings about Toy Story 4 that I still can't tell if I'm on an island with that or not. That feels like 50% of the people think it's the greatest, and 50% of the people are very upset with it. I'm somebody that did not like some of the story choices that they made in Toy Story 4. It really upset me that the little girl just discarded Woody immediately. I don't care if it's realistic or not. I know that kids do that, but the way that 3 ended to me was perfect, with Andy giving up all these toys to this little girl, and he was going to take Woody with him, and he decided to even leave his most prized toy of Woody to this girl because she liked it. And just to have the fact that she immediately discarded him after that is just like, you little bitch, you should have just let him take Woody. Aside from that, the way that it ended with Woody kind of leaving the toys to go pursue his own life, there's something very bittersweet about that I still don't know if I love or hate. But nonetheless, Lightyear, good little sci-fi adventure with Buzz, very good animation, some good laughs throughout it, pretty decent story. It felt a bit reminiscent of things that I've seen before, like there's elements of what's the name? Interstellar. There's elements of Interstellar in there. There's some time travel aspects to it that I've seen before, or time displacement, I guess I should say. There is themes about, making, home is where the heart is, make home where you are kind of thing that I've seen done better. So it's a good time. My kids enjoyed it. I would recommend it. And I think everybody that's making a gigantic deal out of this same-sex kiss that's on screen for less than half a second, and the movie doesn't spend any time talking about it, I think it's fucking asinine. But it doesn't surprise me that it's not doing as well as they think it is. As much as they like to assign that reason, and there are certainly some people out there that are not going to see it because they heard that there's a lesbian couple in it. I think that there's a lot of reasons that it's not blowing up the box office that are much more sensical to me, like people not being very happy with Toy Story 4, like people not really wanting to do a standalone Buzz Lightyear movie, and they want the group to be together, or they're not as interested. Like Disney Plus, they tend to forget that they've put every single Pixar movie for like the past 2 years directly onto Disney Plus. And so why should anybody go out to the theater when they know that they can save that $100 to take all their kids out and just watch it at home in a month? So, yeah, that's all my thoughts on Lightyear. What types of anime do you like? None. Not a fan whatsoever. Is that a Johnny's box set behind you? What? Goonies, maybe? Is that what you're saying? There is a Goonies box set, but it's not in view of you. It's there, but there's no fucking way you can tell what that is. So yeah. Yes. It's a little creepy, Daniel. Are you in my room? You got like security cameras somewhere? I have 2 box sets for the Goonies, but like I said, they're here. They're horizontal. They're not anything that's on display. In your opinion, was Freddy Krueger or Jeepers Creepers more of an original character concerning their looks as well as their legend? Thank you so much. I think they're both extremely original. I don't know if I could say one is more original than the other. They both do very different things, but they're both very unique. Do you prefer A24 or Blumhouse movies? That's a loaded question. I think it's an undeniable fact that A24, just on an artistic level, has much more merit to them and is much more consistent. With that being said, most of the movies that they make are not for me. And so while I have seen as many shitty Blumhouse movies as I have seen great Blumhouse movies, they tend to make the type of movie that I want to watch. So if I were to keep one, I would keep Blumhouse. But A24 is certainly the more consistent quality of the two. Brian says A24, not even close, probably for the exact reasons that I said, but he would rather go with A24. Big Dog, if you had to cast the new Freddy, who would you pick? An unknown actor. I don't have a fan casting of that role. I want somebody to be casted where I go, who the fuck is that? And then they just disappear into it. Not seen it, mate. Want to, though. Uh-oh. Who's asking Brian? Brian, did you enjoy The Northman? The Northman is a movie that Brian would certainly enjoy, so I will speak for him. Would you like to see another Blair Witch movie in the Blair Witch Project franchise or not? Not a fan of that franchise. Let's see here. What do you think of doing a Scarface remake set in modern day LA? At first I was against it, but after seeing the 1932 film, I think it could work. I could take or leave it. Scarface is iconic. I think that there's much. I love crime thrillers, but I feel like that there's a lot of ideas that you can do that you don't have to just do the Scarface story over again. I just don't. I don't think it's needed. If they make a modern day one with a great director, could it be good? Absolutely. But that's a movie that if they announced it today, I wouldn't be excited or upset about it. It would just be like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll see it. Could you see Charles Lee Ray take over a human body and have a successful slasher franchise with no doll? No. That destroys the entire concept of the franchise. So, no, I would have zero interest in that. My bladder is going to explode. Well, use the bathroom. Let's see. Did I get to all the super chats? 3:34. I'm still 20 minutes behind. Fuck. Any crazy food opinions? Personally, I hate lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and pickles on burgers. What do you like on burgers? It'd be a smaller list. Crazy food opinions? I don't think so. I mean, I hate onions, but a lot of people hate onions. Here's one. Okay, this is a little wacky. So I have a love-hate relationship with lettuce. I love a good salad. I love a good quality lettuce on a sandwich or on a burger occasionally, like a, butter lettuce or something like that. But for the most part, I hate lettuce as a topping. So I love a good salad that's dominantly lettuce, but I can't stand, for the most part, most times, when you put lettuce on things, a burger, a sandwich, tacos especially. I can't stand lettuce on a taco. Don't ever put lettuce on a taco or I'm not eating it. So yeah, that for a long time there, that was weird. Where I tell people I hate lettuce, but I would eat a salad in front of them, and they're like, "What the fuck?" So yeah, that's I guess the closest thing to a weird one that I have. Cody, shout out to YouTuber The Maniac. Great channel for obscure and grindhouse gems. Thoughts on Madman? Okay, cool. Well, check out The Maniac if you guys are into obscure and grindhouse gems. I've never even heard of The Madman, so I don't have an opinion on that. Thoughts on a 7 style prequel for Nightmare on Elm Street? Have a great day, my friend. I've always been intrigued with the idea of doing a movie about the Springwood slasher and have him be burned alive by the end of the movie. I think that works better for like an episode of television, though, which I think they did something like that with Freddy's Nightmares. At least there was the court proceedings over Freddy or something, but I don't know. That was an idea that I thought would have been neat to explore. I don't know if it's something that at this point we can do, because when you want a Nightmare on Elm Street film, you want a Freddy film. You don't want an origin story because we already know what's going to happen. There's not really anything overly interesting. There's no revelations. There's no gaps that you're going to fill in with doing that story that's going to merit its existence. Would it be cool to see? Yes. But even though I think it would be cool to see, if I was in charge, I would not greenlight that. So, yeah. Thank you, sir. You're being executed tomorrow, and we're given 4 horror movies: Resurrection, Seed, Freddy's Dead, and Jason Goes to Hell. Which one do you skip? If I'm being executed tomorrow, I'm probably not going to spend my last hours watching any of those fucking movies. So I'll skip all of them. I'll throw them right back at the warden and tell him to go fuck himself. Who would win in a fight, Laurie Strode or Sidney Prescott? Sidney Prescott would wipe the fucking floor with Laurie Strode. I don't care what era we're talking about either. You can talk about young Jamie Lee, H2O Jamie Lee, Halloween 2018 psychopath Jamie Lee. Sidney Prescott's going to beat the living shit out of her and shoot her right in the fucking chest and throw her out of her own franchise. Not even close. Damn it, did it again. Okay, where are we at? Would you ever do a Justified review series? I recently binge watched the entire show. It's great. Probably not, but I will, depending on how good it is. There's a revival coming here next year, I think, with Justified. So I'm very curious to check that out. Might do a review on that or something. But yeah, Justified's a very good show. No. 31 on 31 is not going to become a tier list thing. That is an event that I want to keep unadulterated. Sorry about the list question. It was funny to see. Will you be subscribing to Hulu for preparation for Prey, Predator Story? See what I did there? No, I'll subscribe to Hulu whenever Prey comes out and then probably cancel it right after that. Has your opinion on New Blood changed, or do you just not think of Dexter anymore? My opinion on New Blood has not changed one iota. I still think that that was a garbage way to end that series. She had no right to treat Woody that way. Yes, exactly. Let's see here. The Boys season 3 has been insane so far. Episode 6 is the best episode of the entire show so far, in my opinion. Certainly the craziest, right? Yeah, I enjoyed season 3. That was the first season of The Boys that I enjoyed all the way through. You say that you watch movies with your dad. What are some of his favorite movies to watch? I feel he's a big mob movie guy. That would be a good topic for a video if we ever had the time to do it, where I would rank my dad's favorite movies or have him come on. That'd be fun to do. He likes a lot of classic westerns and stuff too, though. So he like Outlaw Josie Wales and stuff like that. So I think his top 10 would probably have a few surprises on there. But he loves a lot of the same movies that I do. So you would have like, you know, Die Hard, Terminator 2, and Goodfellas, and you would have things that are a bit beyond before my time with the classic westerns and stuff that he would throw on there. There would probably be a couple of oddballs on there, like maybe like The Firm from Tom Cruise. He's a huge fan of that movie. Like he's got a different taste than me in certain aspects. So there would be some overlap, but he would have a few surprises. I rewatched Last Action Hero today. I think the movie is very good, but there are noticeable missed opportunities. What are your thoughts on Last Action Hero? I love that movie. I think it's one of those things that was just ahead of its time for whatever reason. There's certainly some goofiness about it that I could have done without. Just a couple of moments here and there, but overall, I think it was a genius concept. It's a very entertaining movie that still holds up. Let me see here. Tony Chappie, one of the people that I met in person in Orlando. What did you think of the Halo series? Apparently, they changed a lot, especially with Master Chief taking off his helmet. I'll be completely honest with you. I still have not gone back to watch anything past episode 2. That's the thing that pisses me off whenever I get screeners for a show and they only give you some of the episodes, is that by the time, like, I'm forced to wait. And then by the time the show starts and then catches up to wherever I was, I've already moved on to something else inevitably. So I have not heard a lot of great things about the show. I don't know if that would line up with the way that I thought, because I thought the first 2 episodes, more so the first one, was actually pretty entertaining. But yeah, from what I've heard from people, he's without his mask most of the show. He's like naked a bunch of times, like things that were just like really baffling creative decisions. And so I don't know. Eventually I might go back and finish the show, but when I watched the first 2 episodes weeks before the show debuted, and then it was going to be like a month before it was caught up to where I was, I just kind of lost interest in it. Least favorite horror cliche. The evil lives on. Whenever you have a slasher movie or a horror movie where the villain looks like he's dead and then he comes back for one giant scare at the last reel of the movie, I hate it when there's no effort put into it. I hate it when it doesn't make any sense. Like the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies are, for me, both did that. Friday the 13th, 2009, as much as I love it, that was lazy as fuck. He just dumps into the lake, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, he just comes back to life with his mask on. There's a lot of times where that can be cool and that can make sense, or you could do something really creative with it, like The Collection. But more times than not, it's really lazy. It's just like, ha, maybe there's another one. That's all it is. Which horror movie had the worst characters? Worst characters, I don't know. There's probably a handful of movies that had shitty characters. A lot of the Friday the 13th movies have horrible characters. Some of the Nightmare ones too. I don't know if I could say a definitive one. There's quite a few. What are your thoughts on the 2010 remake of The Wolfman? I've actually never seen it. Have you considered going through all 15 seasons of Supernatural and doing individual episode reviews? Hell no. Are you high? There's like 300, 400 episodes. Hell no, man. Yeah, I haven't seen The Wolfman. I've heard people say that it's underrated. I've also heard people say that it's trash, so I don't know who to believe, and I just haven't had the interest to check it out yet. As far as Supernatural, I wish I could have found the time to catch up and actually like rank the seasons when the show ended. There's still part of me that wants to go back and do that. I just don't have the time. I'm like 4 or 5 seasons behind. So, no. I loved Supernatural. The only reason I stopped watching it was because I got together with my wife, and we went back to the first episode because I wanted her to watch and get caught up, and then she kind of fell out of interest with it around season 6. And so I was kind of sitting around waiting for her to get caught up. And then by then 3 seasons had passed, and then I was behind and I had so much other things to watch. So I kind of lost track of it. But yeah, I still dodge videos or articles that try to tell me how the show ended. So I need to, at some point, just bite the bullet and start watching it again. Will you touch my camera through the fence? I still don't know what that means. You've paid for that twice now. Is that a joke? I really don't. Is it an obvious joke that I'm missing? Will you touch my camera through the fence? I don't know what that means. Can anybody help me out? I got a piece of fucking... Ever get chapped lips? And you get like a piece of skin that hangs that just keeps hitting your lip? That's what I got right now. Keep trying to like bite it off. Oh. Will there be a Michael Myers versus? No. Still waiting for that Papa Leach, Junior Leach collab about music. I would love to do a video with my dad. It's just difficult because he's very busy, works a lot of hours. And when I first moved into this house, he was just down the street, but then they moved not too long after that. And now they're 15 minutes in the other direction. So I actually had bought a camera and a microphone to do a podcast or something with him. And then right after that, they were like, hey, we're selling our house. And I was like, okay, forget that idea. When will Blumhouse release a Halloween Ends trailer? I'd be surprised if we don't have one by August. They don't really need to do it anytime soon. I mean, everybody that's going to go to that movie has already pretty much bought their ticket in their head. So July or August. One of your favorite horror movie scores? I love Fright Night score. That's a good one. Phantasm, probably my favorite one. I love that. Your dad loved Goodfellas. That makes him even more awesome to me. He has great taste, and a video with your dad would be very cool. Yeah, a lot of my favorite movies are movies that my dad introduced to me. So, like I said, we got a lot of overlap. I think I'm caught up. Holy shit. Do you know Father of the Bride with Steve Martin? I caught it on TV around Father's Day along with Miss Doubtfire. I love both of them, two classics. I've never seen it. That came out when I was a kid. There was Father of the Bride, and then there was Father of the Bride Part 2 or something. But yeah, I love Miss Doubtfire, but I've never seen Father of the Bride. Messed up the wording on my super chat. Uh-oh. Did I miss one? Oh, one of your favorite scores. Okay. Made me nervous there. What happened to Mother Mayhem? Did she retire from YouTube, or can you say? I have no clue. I have no clue. I don't talk to her anymore. That's as far as I'll go with it. It's as far as I need to go with it. It's a TikTok thing. Get streamers to say the phrase. Okay. I have no idea what that thing is, so it's just weird to me. I'm like, you paid for me to say that twice. Let's see here. Okay, I think I'm caught up on super chats now. I'll just start picking a few. Let's see. What movie franchise do you feel deserves a resurgence? Back to the Future. Back to the Future. I don't know. I feel like you could do something with Back to the Future similar to how Ghostbusters Afterlife went, where you could have Michael J. Fox, you could have Christopher Lloyd back, and have somebody discover a DeLorean that was hidden somewhere, or that got lost in time or something, or I don't know. I haven't thought of the idea. I think you could do a continuation of that series. And I was convinced by my buddy Sean Chandler. This is a movie that I used to say you should never do a remake to, passionately. I also think that you could do a remake to the original Back to the Future and have it be very entertaining. That's a perfect movie in my mind. There's very few movies that I would say are perfect, that you should not change anything. Nothing can be improved, from the script to the casting to the direction. Nothing can be better than what it was. And that is, if there's any movie that I would say that for, the original Back to the Future is that. But even with that being said, I always say that you should do a remake to something if it's a classic, not to just go off of the name and make money, but if you think you can do something different and unique with it that actually merits the existence of a remake. And I think that there's a way that you could do a Back to the Future remake with a 2022 kid going back and experiencing his parents' high school from the 90s or the 80s. And, the same concept, but two different eras. So the movie's entirely different. And you got somebody that lives with social media and cell phone supercomputers in their pocket and Ubers and DoorDash. And they go back to the 80s and 90s when you had fucking dial up or no internet and you had to watch TV just to whenever it comes on. There's no Netflix. You just have to wait. It comes on at 8 o'clock. And if you miss it, fuck you. You'll see it in a month. Like there would be a lot of really neat things you could do with the story, with the humor that would be very charming to me if they got the right writer and the right director. So that was something, full credit to Sean Chandler. That's not my idea, but he convinced me that could be really fun for a movie that I would die on a hill and say, you are not remaking this movie. You're gonna have to go through me first. So that's a franchise that I would like to see redone one way or another. Still doing another 31 on 31 debrief. No, I don't think we're going to be able to do that for the fantasy one, unfortunately. We tried to the week directly after it, but we couldn't line up our schedules right. And then ever since then, Sean especially has been busy as hell because he's been traveling. He's been doing, he just went to Dallas Fan Expo. He's going to Denver in like 2 or 3 days. He was on a youth group trip or something like that. You saw on Instagram if you follow him. So he's been traveling, hasn't even been doing videos on his own channel. I've been busier this past month than I've been this entire year with, going to Orlando with Sean, came back a couple weeks later, went to Jacksonville, and then came back. And then a week later went to Jacksonville again and came back. And then the very next day after I got back from Jacksonville, went to Atlanta with my wife for the concert and came back. Now we're going to North Carolina next week. So just me and him alone, it's like, it's impossible to kind of line up our schedules at this point. And then of course, CP's been going through a lot of the health stuff that I don't want to get into that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. So it's just extremely difficult timing right now. We'll absolutely do one. We're never going to not do a debrief for the Halloween one, the one that we do on October. But there's one more that we haven't announced yet that we're going to do in August. And that I'm going to try like hell to make sure we do a debrief, because as much as I enjoyed doing the fantasy films, the theme that we have that we're going to do in August, we have to have a debrief for that. So yes. Full review of The Ref, that is a extreme possibility this December, because I love that movie. That is one of 2 films that I have to watch on Christmas Day every single year. Let's see. No. Until I understand what you're doing in this trend, I refuse to participate. I don't like being in a joke that I'm not in on. Let's see here. Will you rank the God of War games after Ragnarok? That is yes. Yes, I will. I'll just say yes. I was going to say that's a possibility, but no, it's going to happen. Bill Skarsgård is playing the new Eric Draven, apparently, but we'll see, because there's been like 19 different people cast into that role. Your opinion on Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf? I love that movie. I think that Shia LaBeouf is a shame, because I think that he is a fantastic actor, but he just comes across as a psycho to me. And I know some of it's not his fault. He had a fucked up childhood, but as much as I want to really love him for his work, he's one of those guys that it's hard sometimes, because I know he's such a fucking crazy person outside of it. But this was before all of that. This was one of his first movies when he was starting to break out of that Even Stevens thing. It's a really good like teenage thriller. And if you want to consider it a remake of Rear Window, it's even a really good remake of that. But yeah, I really enjoy that movie. If you haven't seen Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf, it's definitely a good one. Oh shit. See, I went to go click and it jumped again. Do you think Evil Dead Rise will be as good as its predecessors? If so, how good will it be without Ash Williams? Impossible to say until I see the movie. It could be the best. It could be the worst. It could be somewhere in the middle. I don't know enough about the movie Evil Dead Rise. I still don't understand why we're not getting a sequel to the remake. That's where I wanted things to go. I thought that was a damn near perfect movie, and it's like, why are we abandoning that? It was successful too, and the fans love it, but they're not doing that. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are producing this movie that is going to be on Netflix or Hulu or something, or is it HBO Max? I don't know. One of them fucking streaming services that we all pay out the ass for now. And all I know about it is Evil Dead in a skyscraper. I don't know how I like that or not. So, Evil Dead to me is a Cabin in the Woods type franchise. And as much as I love Army of Darkness, which certainly is not Cabin in the Woods, that's going to feel weird to me. But we'll see. No, I'm not going to do a review for that. I don't. Disney Plus, I have had zero luck with. I've reviewed multiple points in WandaVision. I have reviewed every single episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I reviewed Moon Knight, and that might be it. But I have tried to do coverage for Disney Plus, and they bomb every single time. So I don't know. It's almost like the only people that look for reviews of those shows are the ones that drop their reviews like right at 4 o'clock in the morning when the shit debuts, and I refuse to do that. So no, I'm not somebody that's only going to do videos that get views. I will always do things that I want to do, whether or not they're going to be successful or not. But I'm not passionate enough for any of these shows to want to put the work forward for a video that's going to bomb anyway. So I gave my thoughts on Kenobi on a little TikTok video, and I gave my thoughts on Kenobi earlier on in this video, and that's as much as you will hear from me for the future on Kenobi. Thoughts on the Resident Evil Village DLC? I am really curious on the third-person mode. That's the only part that really intrigued me. The Rose storyline, they didn't show enough for me to know what that's even going to look like. And I don't know that character, so I'm not going to get excited about that. The Mercenaries, I'm not really a big fan of anyway, so I don't care about having more characters to play with that as. The third-person mode, playing through the entire game in third person, fascinates me. So that will get me to buy the DLC for sure. Oh, let's see here. A couple more. Are you a fan of Van Halen? If so, what's your favorite song by them? Very casual fan. I'm not somebody who knows much more beyond the main hits. I haven't really dove into their discography yet. They're one of those 80s bands that I feel like haven't aged well for me as far as their relevance. There's a lot of 80s metal and hair metal and stuff that I can still listen to and have a lot of fun with and still love it a lot today, where Van Halen feels like it was such a specific thing where they were blending like rock with dance, and I don't feel like it translates into modern music very well. Favorite song by Van Halen, probably Running with the Devil, but it's not like a real passionate answer. There's probably another one that I might like more, but yeah. Thoughts on the Andor trailer? Haven't seen it. Don't even know what it is. That's a Star Wars show, I guess. I just don't care. The Disney Plus shows, they haven't done anything to the ones that I've given a shot to haven't done anything to give me confidence. So Marvel and Star Wars, I kind of just don't care. It's just like there's products at this point. They're just churning out as much stuff as they can to get you to keep watching, to get you to stay on Disney Plus, and they're not giving me anything on the level of quality that I need to really get me excited. So there's not really anything that I know of that's coming down the pipe that has me excited for either of those universes as far as Disney Plus shows. What is your home theater setup? Do you have an OLED TV? How big is the TV? Do you use a soundbar, or do you have a Dolby Atmos setup? I have a 65-inch Samsung downstairs. It's not an OLED. It's a 4K LED. I do have a sound bar, also a Samsung, and that's pretty much my setup. If forced to pick Which do you prefer more, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, or The World's End? Hot Fuzz is the only one of those three movies that I genuinely enjoyed. I know that's a very hot take. I have given Shaun of the Dead about 4 watches, and I just don't get it. Something about British humor, I guess, doesn't work for me. It's a very dry humor, and everybody loves that movie. I've yet to find anybody that lines up with me when I say that, which is fine. But yeah, I'm the one person on earth that doesn't love Shaun of the Dead. The World's End was okay. Hot Fuzz, I had a lot of fun with. Horror movie concept that you will never want to be in the most. Anyone that I die in, I guess, that you will never want to be in the most. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street would be pretty fucking horrifying because you couldn't sleep. You can run your ass off and drive away from Michael Myers and all that. You the man. I always go to you before watching a film. They are just podcast jokes. Thanks for playing along. Shout out Tom Segura and YMH Studios. Okay, interesting. Yeah, Tom Segura, that's a good comedian. I missed him. He just came to Savannah not too long ago. Let's see. Another one. Was The Black Phone your favorite horror movie of the year so far? If not, what is your favorite or some of your favorites? No, it's probably my second favorite, but I like X. I prefer X significantly. And that's not a knock on Black Phone. I thought Black Phone was a damn good movie. But X was just on another level for me. That was just so unexpected, and I wasn't ready for X. So that one is still my favorite of the year. Black Phone is second. Beyond that, I can't remember. I haven't seen a lot of horror this year. Shit. How was the concert? It was good. It was a very good concert. It was a lot of fun. I think that I debated on doing a video on it, but I couldn't figure out how that was going to look, and I don't know. I just decided not to. But the stadium was monstrous. It was the only stadium show that I've ever been to, so that was very cool and very unique. Joan Jett, who I didn't think that I knew a lot of her music because I don't listen to her. I was surprised at how much of her stuff I actually knew a lot of. She was great. Sounded very impressive for her age, especially. So she was really good. Poison, which for some reason I didn't expect a lot out of them, probably because I'm just not a big fan of Poison. I don't dislike them, but they're like the epitome of the like poppy side of hair metal. They were really good. Arguably, they were the tightest. It was very close between them and Def Leppard, but they were really good. Bret Michaels was a lot of fun. He was the most energetic frontman by far. Motley Crue was a little better than I expected, but they were the only band of the 4 that had sound issues. I still really enjoyed their set. The energy and the live atmosphere and everything really helped with that. But Tommy Lee only being able to play a couple of songs was certainly disappointing. I don't fault the guy. People are like attacking him in the band for that. I think it's fucking childish. But yeah, it's disappointing when you wait for 2 years and pay that amount of money, and possibly the most entertaining of the 4 band members is not there for most of the set. And the rest of the guys kind of just seemed like they were going through the motions. They were the least energetic band of all of them. And the sound was turned up way too much on the drum set. I don't know if that was intentional to kind of like mask Vince Neil a little bit, but the bass drum, the kick drum was louder than anything else on stage. And so even the guitar and everything, I couldn't really hear through some of the songs, but I still enjoyed their set, but they were the only ones that had sound issues. And Def Leppard, I missed the last 4 songs of their set because the second that they started playing, it downpoured. So we were soaked head to toe for most of their set, which was cool, but it was also cold after a while. And it messed up their equipment. So about 5 songs in, they had to switch over and do an acoustic set for 3 or 4 songs. And I was getting the impression that that was going to be the way that it was the rest of the set. And with thousands of people there, I also was worried about how hard it was going to be to get out of that stadium from the parking lots. So we decided to head out after their 3rd or 4th acoustic song. They eventually did kick back on and started doing electronic stuff again because they were playing Bringing on the Heartbreak as we were leaving the stadium. So we missed Bringing on the Heartbreak, Rock of Ages, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and Hysteria, which are songs I wish I could have seen, but they were really good. They were really good in their set. Somebody said, "What's wrong with Tommy Lee?" He apparently broke some ribs. So he played the first 3 songs and then had somebody else come in to sub for him. He came out and did the piano for Home Sweet Home, and I think he did the last song of the set. But yeah, Def Leppard sounded very good. Overall, the concert was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I got my money's worth, and I paid a lot because we were pretty close. Completely agree. I love X and the channel. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thoughts on Jenna Ortega? She's great. She's coming like a modern Scream queen. Most of the movies that she has been in, I've really enjoyed. She was in Scream 5, which I really enjoyed. She was in X, which I loved. She was in moments of Studio 666, which I did not enjoy. But she's somebody that kind of can't. She was kind of like the fuck is her name? The chick from The Babysitter and Ready or Not. I'm blanking. You guys will correct me. You know who I'm talking about. But she was like her. She just came out of nowhere and suddenly was in all these awesome movies. And it was like, dude, where'd this chick come from? She's great. So yeah, I like Jenna Ortega so far. She's very cool. And now we got the sex date bots just on time. Let's see here. Samara Weaving. Thank you. Do you own Laserdiscs? No, my dad owns quite a few, but no, I never bought them. Laserdiscs are weird because they were cool when I was a kid. We would break them out once in a while and watch like the director's cut of T2 or something. But DVD quickly made them obsolete. They were never very good quality. They were, they were a little better than VHS, or at least maybe the disc aesthetic of it was cool, but they were never very practical. They're fucking heavy. They're huge. You got to flip it over to play the movie. It's just like a record. There's a side A, side B, and some movies had multiple discs. So yeah, they're not like vinyls where they have this cool, like aged aesthetic to them. That's like trendy. Like they were quickly obsolete. So it's just like the 8-track player that's never coming back. So no, I don't own any. There's no reason for me to own any. I would never, for any collector reason or anything, want a Laserdisc because whatever movie it is, I would rather put in the Blu-ray or click play on a streaming service before I would pull out that big fucking giant frisbee Laserdisc. Let's see here. I'm gonna go for another 8 minutes, guys. Cut it off at 2 hours. Thoughts on the new Megadeth song and upcoming album? I have not heard it. I'm not a big fan of Megadeth. I like some of their stuff, but I've given multiple albums of theirs a listen, and I just don't really love that sound. A lot of it is Dave Mustaine's voice, and he's fucking awesome. That's no disrespect to Dave Mustaine. He's an awesome dude. Guitar god. And in a lot of ways, I understand why people prefer Megadeth to Metallica because they're constantly churning out music and touring, and the guy is just a monster. But just for whatever reason, a lot of their music just doesn't really appeal to me, mostly because of the vocals. Vocals are so important to me. It's very hard for me to listen to music that I don't love the vocals on, even if the guitar playing and the musicianship and everything is awesome. So yeah, very casual fan of Megadeth, so I have not heard their new song, and I probably won't know when their new album comes out. I'll try to give it a shot, though. Who do you prefer the most, Ripper Owens or Rob Halford? It's another loaded question because I think it's very difficult to argue that Rob Halford is possibly the greatest metal vocalist of all time. And I have preferred what Rob Halford has done since Judas Priest went back with him to what Ripper Owens has done since he left Judas Priest. But with that being said, his little era there of Judas Priest is my favorite era of that band. The Jugulator and Demolition albums, I think, are criminally underrated, and it pisses me off that the band doesn't even like acknowledge them. Like you'll never hear Rob Halford play a song from that era. And I think that that's just it's disrespectful to him. And it's disrespectful to just all the work that went into those albums. It's very strange. And I think it's a disservice to the fans because there's a lot of fans that really love that music. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of songs from even the older era, especially the older era of Judas Priest, that I think that Ripper always sounded better live than Rob Halford did. But Rob Halford is Rob Halford. You know what I mean? He's a metal god, literally, for the reason that he's Rob Halford. He's got like the biggest vocal range of anybody in metal. And you know, he's older now. You can't hold it against him. He doesn't sound quite as ferocious live as he used to. He still sounds very good. He sounded great when I saw him at Rockville a couple years ago. But if it wasn't for how incredible Firepower as an album was, I would probably lean more towards saying Ripper Owens and feeling a little bit more confident with it. But Firepower shows that Rob Halford and his contributions to Judas Priest still has a lot of gas left in the tank. So if Ripper Owens had went on after him and Judas Priest parted ways and went on to do amazing things, this conversation would be much more difficult. But I have not liked anything that he has done outside of Judas Priest. He's kind of been the singer for hire. He was in Iced Earth. He was in Yngwie Malmsteen. He did his own solo album once. I think he was a guest vocalist in some other band. I could be wrong. And then now he's doing this KK's Priest, which was okay. I was excited for it. For those that don't know, KK Downing was one of the original guitarists for Judas Priest. He left the band, creative differences, years ago, and he has started touring and recorded an album underneath the moniker of KK's Priest. And Ripper Owens came and became his vocalist. So there's a lot of cool things about that if you're a fan of Judas Priest, because it's one of the original guitarists of Judas Priest with the backup singer of Judas Priest that came in during the 90s and delivered some awesome music that doesn't get appreciated nearly enough to make more music. But there was something very dated about the approach that they took to their music, where it sounds like the music belongs in the 80s. And I'm much more interested in what Judas Priest is doing with the sound of Firepower than I am with KK Downing's Priest. Let's see. Best drama show: Breaking Bad, The Shield, Yellowstone. I don't know if I would consider Dexter drama necessarily, but if he does, Dexter, but just temper your expectations after season 4. We talked about Justified earlier. Justified's a good drama show. Got some more super chats. Have you ever watched an Alan Smithy film? The name when the director takes their own name off the film, and if so, have you ever actually liked one? I am not aware of any if I have seen them. That's a new term. I've never heard that before. Laserdisc was great in the early 90s. Yeah, back before DVD came out, it was the shit. I remember it was very cool. My dad had a whole collection of them. We had Aliens, we had Terminator 2, he had Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. There were some oddballs in there. He had a couple other 80s movies that I had never seen, and we used to always just pull them out randomly and start watching one of them. I think we had Pet Sematary, maybe. Could be wrong. But I used to always like looking at them. They were just cool and fascinating to me as a kid. But as soon as DVD came out, it was like, what the fuck's the point of ever watching those again? Not sure if you remember, a few months back, I asked you for advice on senioritis, and I took the advice and I graduated and going to college to be a teacher. Thank you for being such a badass. Awesome. Awesome, dude. Yeah, senioritis. I mean, high school in general, man, it's amazing once you're an adult, you look back at high school and realize how much that shit never mattered. And I'm approaching the point where I have to try to explain that to my son, because he's getting ready to start 9th grade being a freshman. And he's even having some of those school blues here and there with, the same shit we always deal with, kids being dickheads to him and wanting girlfriends and everything. And I'm just like you try to navigate them at the same time. You're like, as much as it feels while you're in high school, like this is it, this is what's going to matter, this is going to define my life, it doesn't mean shit after you walk out of those doors with that diploma. So congratulations. Good luck to you. Better Call Saul second half predictions. I think that Lalo is going to be killed by Gus on or near the finale with that gun that he has hidden in the tracks of that backhoe or whatever the fuck it was in the underground lab. I think that I don't think that Kim is going to die. I think that something is going to happen to where they use the vacuum guy or something. Something happens to Kim to where I think I have a hard time believing that they're going to end the show on kind of a bittersweet or a down note like they did with Breaking Bad. I think they're going to go more hopeful with this. So I have an inkling of a thought that maybe whenever we do get back to the black and white flash forwards of Gene, the Saul in the future, the Cinnabon manager, because the last time we saw him, somebody noticed him and he was calling Robert Forster to do another identity switch. And then he hung up the phone and says, I'm going to handle this myself, and walked away. Whatever he's going to handle or do, I think he's eventually going to find Kim again. There's been visual hints in this season where they show Kim's mom and they show that she's in the city that Gene is in the future. So I don't think she's going to die. There's going to be something that's going to happen that's going to split them off to where it's a sensible reason why we never hear of her or see her in Breaking Bad. But I think they're going to be more hopeful with it. And then Mike, I don't know if anything major is going to happen with Mike because we already know where Mike's going to land. So there's not really anything big that they have to do with his character. And then as far as how they're going to incorporate Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul, I have no idea. Doesn't make any sense to me why they're doing that aside from just fan service. So I hope that they're creative with how they do it. And it doesn't seem like this very weird standout moment, but I have no reason to doubt that those awesome writers on that show are going to do that. Ben Affleck's Batman versus Robert Pattinson's Batman. Who wins in a fight? Ben Affleck's Batman would break him in half. Easily. That dude's a monster. All right, guys. Let me wrap up the last couple of super chats that I have, and then I'm going to head out. Let me see. Was it just one more? Now that you've been roped into it, are you enjoying doing tier lists? Mildly. I'm enjoying doing the concept of the franchise that I'm doing, where I'm doing the second films and the third films, just because it's interesting to only look at the third films and only look at the fourth films. As far as just redoing all of my rankings that I've already done in tier list form, like I did for Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Child's Play, that's not something necessarily that would excite me because it's kind of like been there, done that. But yeah, mildly enjoying them. Have you watched Terrifier Art the Clown? It is the most underrated slasher movie. I disagree. I have watched it. I've watched it twice. It's fine. I think that everybody is putting way too much into Art the Clown and a Terrifier. People are ready to hand him the crown for new horror icon with one movie, and I don't think he earned it in one movie, and I don't know if he's going to earn it in two movies, but to me, it feels like the horror community, and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody that loved the movie. If you loved it, that's awesome. I think the horror community is so desperate for a new horror icon that they're ready to just throw it to whoever comes out first. Terrifier was fine. There was certainly some gory moments that were a bit too much, but nonetheless, it's a slasher. Art the Clown has some creepiness to him and has an interesting look. Story-wise, that movie has nothing to offer. Any kind of lore or explanation or anything like that with Art the Clown Maybe we'll get it in the sequel. It's non-existent in the first film. So the first film, to me, it almost borders on video nasty, where it's like, let's just be really fucking extreme with the gore. Let's cut a chick from her pussy all the way up to her face and then throw that out there and see what horror fans do. And I just don't get anything out of that. I need story. I need characters. I don't get anything out of it. Wasn't that fucking gross? And I'm like, yeah, it was. So yeah, I don't know. Terrifier's fine to me. I don't hate it like some people. Like Brian and CP hate that movie. And I certainly don't love it like a lot of people do. And I'm not going to tell you I love it because you're yelling at me in the comment section. But nonetheless, I'm curious on the second film. I'll certainly be watching it. But to me, that is the most overrated horror film of the past 5 years. Aaron Lewis or Corey Taylor? Holy fuck, that is a monster to end on. We'll do this one last. Oh, that's like picking my kids. Which one's the favorite kid, man? That's hard. I think Aaron Lewis is probably my favorite songwriter, and Corey Taylor would be my favorite singer. But when I say that, I'm talking about like a razor thin difference. Like 4.99999999999 for one of them, and then 5 for the other one. Like, I don't know. There's something about Corey Taylor that he just feels so versatile with what he can do. He can sing the heaviest of metal with Slipknot and like going that far with the vocals. He can do things that are more alternative and softer, like Stone Sour. He can do fucking Kiss, Metallica, Black Sabbath. He recently did a cover of Eddie Money. He's done Van Halen. And it's just like, anytime he does something, it's just like, dude, this fucking guy can sing the shit out of anything. Anything you throw in front of him. And I would not say necessarily that Aaron Lewis can't do that. But Aaron Lewis is much more, with what he has given us, is much more limited, because Stained is Stained and his country stuff is his country stuff. And he's phenomenal at both of those. And those are two completely different worlds. But I just feel like Corey Taylor is just like all over the map with what he has done and what he has recorded and what I've heard from him, to where I don't know if there's anything that he can't do. And Aaron Lewis might be the same way. I just haven't seen or heard that necessarily. So I don't know. I love them both. To me, they're both the two best singers in music today. Honestly, they're two my favorites for sure. But yeah, I think Aaron Lewis, I just love the way that he writes songs. They just kind of connect on a personal level. There's something that's very down to earth about them that I love. And Corey Taylor's a phenomenal songwriter too. Again, that's like 4.99999 infinity all the way to 5. But yeah, I don't know. Both. Yes. Aaron Lewis or Corey Taylor. Yes. Yes. All right. Let's see. Oh, we got everybody arguing about Terrifier. Isn't it? One-time watch for sure. Yeah. All right. Let's see. One more. Game of Thrones thoughts. I'm not really a big fantasy guy. It was my idea to do the 31 on 31 fantasy because I wanted to finally have an excuse to watch the rest of the Harry Potter films, because I'd only seen the first one, and to watch the rest of the Lord of the Rings film because I'd only seen the first one. And after doing that series and watching all of those movies, I can still tell you even more confidently, I'm not a fantasy guy. It's just not my thing. But Game of Thrones was a very good show. It was a bit dense. There was a lot of characters, a lot of settings, a lot of things that you had to remember that was tough for me. It's not a show that I would necessarily want to rewatch. I thought that season 4 and season 6 were both phenomenal TV. There was a lot of meandering and a lot of slow storytelling in basically every other season of that show. with the exception of season 7 and season 8, which just felt rushed. I wasn't as offended and pissed off as a lot of people about the way that things decided to end up in that show, because me and my wife watched the show in binge format while the last season was airing. And so we experienced it all within 2 months, where everybody else was watching it for 8 years. So I agree with a lot of the criticisms, but it didn't really offend me that much. So I was a little bit more positive overall on the show than most people seem to be. But it's not a show that I would put in my top, and it's not a show that I would ever be in a rush to revisit. Shit, there's another one. All right, last one, guys. When's the next 31 on 31, and what's the theme? I'm not going to tell you the theme here because I want to do a trailer. I want to do like a really cool way to do it. I'll give you a hint, though. Okay, so the next 31 on 31 is going to be August 31st. And there's going to be like 5 or 6, maybe even 7 franchises in it that I'm very excited for. Very excited for. It's going to be one of the more fun 31 on 31s to do. And I'm going to give you my hint, and then I'm signing off of this bitch. Dun 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 dun.